So let's go from the tech side, the advanced side, to the most analog side, the book. I want to talk about, at that stage you wrote Supple, Leopard. Walk me through this, just actually, like, I want actual tactics on this. You decide you're going to write a book. Do you call a publishing company? Do you call a book writing consultant?
So
like,
it's such a good one. I never call anyone. I've never knocked on a door or called anyone. People knock on our doors. People are like, Juliet's in a bunch of masterminds, and people say, well, like, hey, how do you get on podcasts? And she's like, I don't know. People just call us. I want to be on your podcast. I'm like, it's not how it works. It's just not how it works. Your friends will find you. Do something really interesting. I hate to say that. It sounds so trite. Be fucking awesome. Do something interesting, and there'll be plenty of times to talk about it. Really, I swear to God, that's it, right? Or start it yourself and talk to people, really. So Rob Wolf wrote a book.
Yep,
Paleo Solution. And I can't tell you how ahead of the time that was, because no one had a book. And it was the first time, and he made the New York Times bestselling list. I remember talking to Rob on the phone. I was at an airport going to teach somewhere, and he just made the New York Times bestseller. And I was like, one of my friends wrote a book that made the New York Times? Like, that was like, one of my friends ran a 2-minute mile and did a 30-second Fran. Like, that was what that was. Like, I was shocked. And then his publisher reached out, Victory Belt, and they were like, hey, we'd like you to write a book about what you're doing. I'd already been teaching a ton, and I already had a framework for this because I was teaching people. So Supple Leopard is the course. That's what it is, plus a little bit more. But it was the course. And so I had this whole framework for how I was trying to help people understand complex movement. And Juliet and I were like, totally, we'll sign it. So we signed this deal. No one we knew. We didn't get the best deal. We weren't very, but it was also, who's going to buy a $60 book about squatting? Like, it's not really, not given. That wasn't a success, right? There's no sexy women in there. And I think for 6 months, we kind of sat down and kind of toyed with it, or 3 months. And I was like, man, Juliet, we don't even own a camera. How do we take photos and lay this out? So Glenn Cordoza was my co-writer on that book, and Glenn worked for the company, and he had written and ghostwritten and written a ton of martial arts books for like Kung Le and like some serious people. And Glenn was at a time in his life where he had a girlfriend but did not have a baby, nothing, and he came and lived at my house, and he became a brother, and the two of us sat down, and I beautiful mind this, and I would write, and he would write, and he'd transcribe, and we would edit, and the three of us just did that with Juliet.
How long did that process take?
1.5 years. It was burly. And again, we didn't have an advance. We didn't do that. Like, there's no, like, I was like, this needs to be done. There's the megalomania, the maniac. And then we had the most cheerful, enthusiastic, stoked community ever called CrossFit, who was like, we have your back because you have our back. And they showed up for us, they pre-ordered, and that book changed my life. And we put a second edition out. The thing came out in 2013, so we're creeping up on a 10-year anniversary of that book. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
We're working on a 10-year anniversary book edition of it. It sold 600,000 copies. That's the conservative estimate, which is dumb. It's just ridiculous. And it has opened a million doors, because people find it and ideas. And